You guys have heard my opinions on the NFL draft. I want to get some outside opinions. I got Tyson Rauch joining the stream. Jets, 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 Jets! Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, I go live every Tuesday at 8 o'clock for our live call-in show. No, not live call-in show. That's wrong. It's Talking Jets panel, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Myself, O'Leary, and Green Bean. So ask us all your Jet-related questions. But let's move on to our topic of the day. And I got a very special guest joining me from Let's Talk Jets Radio. I got Tyson Rauch. Welcome, brother.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, man. It's been a long time. I've been dying to talk to you. So I'm excited about this.
I'm really pumped. I have watched you guys for like years. It has been awesome. We got to meet at the home opener this past year, so it was really cool to kind of get to know you. Really good guys. If you have not subscribed to Let's Talk Jets Radio, down below in the description I'll have all their links, so make sure you sub them up. But Tyson, how are you doing?
Bro, I'm all fired up. I'm excited. But I just want to give you guys a lot of credit, man, because you guys have changed the game in terms of the YouTube channel. Like you, Green Bean, O'Leary. I mean, the content you guys provide, the format you use, the platform you guys have created for yourselves is so good, dude. It's like, it's transformed everything, man. Like everybody used to rely on mainstream media for stuff, and now they're going to YouTube. They're checking out you guys, and the fans have a voice, and the content that's being created by fans is better than a lot of stuff you see in the mainstream media. So credit to you guys, man. You guys are just killing it. Seriously.
It's been a lot of fun watching this YouTube community really flourish, because I think the Jets YouTube community by far has the most really good content creators across all NFL teams. Like I've tried to collab with like Atlanta Falcons YouTubers. I couldn't find them. There's like none out there. I'm talking to like a podcast from some random website, not even like on YouTube, to try and get like opinions from them. So it's really nice to see that there's like a really close-knit group of guys.
No, and it's like everybody's so passionate and they're informed and they're educated. It's not like like they don't. Everybody has like a really good opinion, and it comes back from experience because we've seen bad football. We know bad football. We know what we see, and you can't lie to us about it. And if you're providing content, you can't give fake stuff because fans will call you out on it. So you guys are, I mean, it's just great, man. Everybody's doing such a great job, and it's I can sit on YouTube all day long and just watch Jet stuff. Seriously,
dude, that is seriously me. I'll go from highlight video to highlight video. I'll go through the entire Jets YouTube of just like interviews. Did you see the Michael Clemens interview? We'll get into the draft stuff, but Michael Clemens, intense. Like this guy has almost turned into like a what would you call it? Like a myth, almost like a Chuck Norris joke, if you will. Like this guy moves the earth when he does push-ups, like that kind of intense.
The energy surrounding this team right now is so exciting. This is the culture change you want, man. It's like if you're a Jet fan right now, not ready for training camp at week 1, like I don't know what you're doing, man. Like you've got to be just chomping at the bit at this point.
So I want to get into some draft stuff. Everyone's really excited across the media landscape. It's really, I think it's fascinating. We don't usually see the mainstream media talk glowingly about the New York Jets, but for the first time, we had a weekend since probably 2010 where we could really hold our heads high and be proud to be Jet fans. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about our draft. You can see it right here. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall, all guys we considered taking in the first round. And then we round out the draft with Jeremy Ruckert, Max Mitchell, and Michael Clemens. So walk me through how you were feeling on draft day. Kind of go through each of the picks a little bit. Give your thoughts on how you're feeling.
To me, this was a roller coaster ride, an enormous roller coaster ride, because my goal in the draft as a fan was I want a pass rusher and a wide receiver, and that's what I was really focused on at the most. So at 4, I thought Thibodeau had been the choice, or even Jermaine Johnson at that point. They take Sauce Gardner. I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand it. But there was a narrative that Jets wouldn't go corner that high that was out there being drilled by so many people that I bought into it. I'm like, he could be the best player available, but with Joe Douglas pass on him, I thought he was going to. So he didn't. They take him. So at 10, I'm like, okay, cool. Jermaine Johnson here. This makes the most sense. We get our guy. We move on. They take Garrett Wilson and run. I will not lie to you. I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, not another draft without a pass rusher. I'm like, don't do this to me. And I like Garrett Wilson. I had no problem. But now you're like, literally, you're having some beers, you're hanging out, and I'm like, trade up. You got to get your guy because you don't want to wait till the second round. Like, I don't want to be there again where we get like the 13th best pass rusher. They get Jermaine Johnson, and then it's like a celebration. I'm like, the cumulative round was great, but the process of going through it was nerve-wracking.
Dude, intense roller coaster. I was right there with you. This draft sort of reminded me of 2020 with Becton, and I really liked CeeDee Lamb. And I was like, oh, man, I would love to find a way to get this guy, but I understand we got to go with the left tackle. Like, that is the way we got to go. So I fell in love with Sauce Gardner. I was like, I want to find a way to get this guy. I don't think he's making it to number 10. But then I'm like, you know what? The edge rusher, you got to have your pick of the litter. You can't just pass on it and then, roll the dice. I did like the idea, as we got a little bit closer to the draft, pulling the trigger on Sauce and rolling the dice on one of these top 5 edge rushers hitting 10. Like, I thought that there was a pretty good shot of that. And I didn't mind passing on Thibodeau. I was really hoping that we got to see him go before the Jets, because I don't love the idea of him being on the Giants and then possibly having an elite career. And now maybe Sauce doesn't perform, up to level that you would hope he is. And then maybe Jermaine Johnson isn't quite the guy. And you have to hear it from the media. It's on the back page of the paper. That was the fear, I think, for me. And I'm right there with you. When they took Garrett Wilson, I was like, oh, man, we got a receiver. Like, this is awesome. Probably the safest of the receivers, going. Jameson Williams had the torn ACL. You had Drake London with the broken ankle. So there was, a lot of concern there, I think. So to get him at 10, while I was shocked. Like you, I was still excited. I kind of flipped it around being like, okay, I think we're going to get edge rusher 10 and trade back up for a wide receiver. And they flipped the script on me. I am so glad Joe Douglas is in charge, because like you said, I would have taken Jermaine Johnson at 4 or 10. And to watch him come back up to get Jermaine Johnson, that might have been the most exciting moment that I've had as a Jet fan in a pretty long time. Just because you knew what the pick was going to be. It was going to be him or Karlaftis. You heard they really liked Jermaine Johnson a lot. And then we find out for night 2 that they were looking to trade back up into the first round to get Breece Hall, which really changes the entire rest of this draft for me. Because if you think about what they gave up to just move up to number 36 from 38, if they went back up into the first round, you're talking about losing pick 101, 111, and 117 at the least. So in my mind, they wanted to get their top 4 players. They still got those top 4 players. But then you look at Jeremy Ruckert, and that's like, okay, we got like 3 bonus picks after that. So you get the fan favorite in Jeremy Ruckert. Every Jet fan had him in their mock drafts. Then you get Max Mitchell. That's like a Joe Douglas pick, the developmental tackle to go behind Fant Becton. Then you get Michael Clemens. That's the Robert Saleh pick. And it's just kind of like these guys selected players that I think they wanted to take a crack at, that they probably didn't expect the opportunity to have that, because they were going to try and move up to get Breece Hall. So walk me through what you thought in the second round. What do you think of Breece Hall? What do you think of Jeremy Ruckert and the rest of these guys?
Again, I mean, being fully transparent, Breece Hall shocked me, and I understand how good of a player he was. But to me, and by being honest, it's like I always thought running backs later on, 3rd, 4th round, like later on, you get those guys. They're kind of a dime a dozen, but you fill other needs. And to me, it was safety and linebacker. I thought, like obviously the Nakobe Dean story was out there, but it's all about the injuries. He had the torn pec, he had this, he was dropping. Then I'm like, all right, maybe go safety there. So when they traded up, I'm like, maybe it is Nakobe Dean. Like I didn't think running back, and I know there's a whole group of fans that said we wanted him. I respect it. I just thought running back later on. When they took him, I'm like, wow, that's bold, because they're saying build around Zach Wilson, and that's exactly what you're doing. You're adding legitimate playmakers to the offense, explosive guys that are changing the game for you. You're changing your offense. You're making a lot more flexibility, a lot more versatility, a lot more depth. Like now, if Michael Carter goes down, or if you have whatever, like you have all these different options now, which is great. So Breece Hall surprised me. Rucker kind of surprised me a little bit too. I understood it. I'm like, the whole thing, it's a great story, man. And they saw him firsthand. I get all that. And then it's like, he's coming to a perfect environment where there's no pressure. Like he could be the 3rd tight end. He could learn. They can work him in slowly. He can progress. He can do whatever. It's like great scenario there. And again, the tight end group is ridiculously overhauled. Like if you talk about this roster, the positions that have been overhauled, it's phenomenal. And that's not even being like a biased Jets fan. That's like, it's being honest. Like assess where we were to where we are. What you're giving Zach Wilson now is truly night and day. Going on to Max Mitchell, don't know a lot about him, man. That's that part of the draft. I start being like, I don't really know. The Michael Clemens one, to me, is exciting because that's a guy Saleh loves. And that kind of athlete, that kind of explosive player, we don't have on this team. We never had. Like not to discount Bryce Huff, but we were like touting him like Bryce Huff is so great. Bryce Huff is so great. Like we're bringing in phenomenal athletes now off the edge that can be disruptive. And if there's like a situational guy who plays 10 plays a game and it's on 3rd down, that's great. If Carl Lawson gets banged up or Jermaine Johnson can slow down or whatever it is, we have depth now. We have like pieces to the puzzle now that we never had before. And this isn't, I think it's a little different than when like this is going to sound really bad, but like there was times where the Jets would draft somebody and we would completely overvalue him. Oh, this guy's a sleeper. This guy's a diamond in the rough. This guy's, and like, we the names, dude. And then the 2 years later, they're out of the NFL. They're not on the team. They're out of the NFL. Right. But like even on defense, like we would take some fringe pass rusher, be like, no, you don't understand. This guy in 2 years is going to have 12 sacks. Never happens. This just feels different, man. Like you have a different vibe around this team, a different vibe around the front office. I mean, it's a nice feeling to say, you know what? There's a blueprint, there's a plan. The general manager and head coach are on the same page. Like you could see it, man. Like there's no friction. Like you could tell, like they know what they both want to do. They're both bought in. They're both fully vested, and it's perfect. Like it's. I mean, obviously this isn't going to be the all-time best draft class that we've ever seen, but going into it, you feel comfortable with the decisions being made.
Yeah, and did you see the video of the Giants war room and the Jets war room? They had like a contrasting video. Incredibly different. They're like, Kayvon, we're going to select you. You're going to be the pick. Stoic. Yeah. And Robert Saleh and like Joe Douglas are like jumping up and down. They're excited. They traded up. Like totally different vibes. Like I feel excited to be a Jet fan for really the first time in a long time. And like you said, this is a phenomenal draft. It has the potential to be one of the best drafts the Jets have ever had.
Yep. No, and that's the thing. Like, but you look at Joe Douglas though. It's like his first year under Gase, we got to wash away because he was like kind of stoic, and it was like they're robots and they're zombies, and you're like, what is this guy? Like the draft was not very good. Free agent moves, you're like, this is kind of getting sketchy. Now you're seeing his personality, you're seeing Robert Saleh's personality, and you're understanding what their play like a Jet means, what their Jet player is. We now know what it is. Like last year, you kind of got a vision. This year, it's confirmed. Like like work ethic guys, first in, football junkies. Like you've got to love the game, you've got to buy in, you've got to be like team first. Now we know. Now you know next year in the draft who they're going to be kind of targeting now. So it's awesome, dude.
It's fascinating to watch the difference from the 2020 draft through these last 2 years, because last 2 years feel very similar, and it feels like they're on the same page. Where the 2020 draft, I'm wondering if there's anything that sort of prevented them from having a successful draft, or at least one that we would deem successful as fans, just because they weren't allowed to interview these guys in person. That was the first draft they had with COVID and everything going on. So there was a very odd dynamic going on. And I think when you look at how Douglas drafted, he drafted some really high RAS score guys. So he's looking for those top athletes, hoping they're going to boom. And there's a lot of, people are a little down on Becton right now because of the injuries. Mims has kind of been a little bit of a no-show the first 2 years. But I think there's the upside for those players. And I think that watching what things have kind of transpired the last 2 seasons, last 2 drafts, I'm encouraged where we're going. I think Joe Douglas is a phenomenal GM. I mean, not even just draft-wise, the waiver wire pickups, the trades, like undrafted free agents, like these guys that he's snagging, he's finding talent across the board, not just through these draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, he's making tough decisions, getting rid of Jamal Adams, getting rid of Sam Darnold. They're holding people accountable. I love, and I don't hate Becton. I love the way they're handling him right now, though. Like, listen, man, you got to earn your spot. You got to earn your keep. We wish you were here. You're not. That's fine. You better come in great shape. You're starting to see they're growing and learning. Like Joe Douglas is learning on the job as well. Like he's getting a lot of credit, but he had to learn some growing pains too. He's phenomenal with contracts, a lot of financial responsibility, which is great. And Saleh too. He learned a lot last year too, because early on he had some rough patches, man. Game management, roster management, a lot of things that were kind of sketchy. He's figuring things out. So it's good, man. It's like a blueprint and a vision you could buy into. And we haven't really had that in a while. Like as fans, we always have to. Like when they hired Gase, you're like, I hated it. I almost burned things down. But I'm like, all right. But then what do? 2 weeks later, you're like, you know what? He's our coach. Let's buy into it. We start justifying things. We justify losing. We accept losing. We buy into nonsense. Now it's the opposite. Now we're like, we can buy into this process, this rebuild.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I want to get your thoughts going position group by position group, because this team is totally different from where we were just a year ago. Like, yeah, we did have Vinny Curry. We did have Carl Lawson, but we didn't get to see either of those guys play. It's almost like adding 2 brand new free agents to this room. And then you get to kick John Franklin Myers inside next to Quinnen Williams. You bring in Solomon Thomas. You have Jermaine Johnson now and Clemens hitting the fold. You have all these depth pieces. And I want to hear your opinion. What do you think of the Jets' defensive line overall?
I think right now, like everybody likes to say, like Zach Wilson has no excuses. Well, guess who else has no excuses? The defensive line, Quinnen Williams. No more excuses for none of these guys. They got to dominate. Especially, like, I'm a Carl Lawson fan. I loved when they signed him. I understand the risk about the injury coming into it, but I still thought he was that elite level play. He's elite, man. He is a dynamic guy. But now look at all the talent, and they have rotations, and they have because Solomon never plays these. He plays them 60%. Every guy plays that much. So the guys that are coming in fresh are actually talented. You're bringing in relentless pressure, relentless. Like they could all bring different elements to the game. And like John Frank Lemires going inside now could be a disruptive force. So the run defense should be significantly better. If not, that's an enormous problem. That's where it all started last year. Was the run defense was awful. How many games was it like? They had 120 yards, 150 yards in the first half, right? So the defensive line is what they take a lot of pride in. I think it's going to be significantly better. Make or break year for Quinnen Williams in terms of his $100 million contract. John Franklin Myers got to earn his contract too. Carl Lawson coming back, a man on a mission. Then you add in Jermaine Johnson. You all the guys you mentioned, man. And you have Rankins. Like some of the guys we're not even talking about. Like it's just like it's like, dude, it's wild.
They're
right? It's crazy. Like it's just wild. Like it's fun being a Jets fan.
It really is. It's exciting to see because we haven't had that kind of depth at any position. I feel like we've always relied on our draft picks to be our main starters. And while I do see that happening for our first 4 picks, it's nice to be able to allow some guys later on, 4th round and beyond, to kind of sit and learn and develop. And I think it's really cool to see that. Now, I was the same way thinking in the second round as you were. And I want to move to the linebacking core because I thought for sure we were moving up to get Nakobe Dean. He was one of my favorite players. If they wanted to pull the trigger on him at 10 at one point in the offseason, I would have been totally fine with it. Or a trade down, I would have been cool with it at like 19, 20, somewhere in there. This guy is a violent linebacker. We find out all the injuries, and I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to go a different route. They wind up passing on the linebacker position altogether in the draft. They seem very confident in C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams. And then you also have Sherwood and Nasser Al-Din coming back, and we didn't really get to see a whole lot from either of those two. So I think a lot of Jet fans are probably feeling like, I wish we had a little more depth on that linebacker core. So what are your thoughts going into this season?
I 100% agree with you. And the thing is, like, that was kind of like in the later rounds, like that Max Mitchell pick. Like, do you go linebacker there? Do you change it? Because you just need – the Jets always seem to lack speed at linebacker, like the sideline to sideline guy. The guy that can fly around, guy that can cover the running back or the tight end or things like that. So now it's like I know the Jets are high on Quincy Williams. Maybe an offseason working with the Jets will change and make him a little bit better. I know they're high on Sherwood too, who was thrown to the Wolves and then got hurt. But, the whole Quan Alexander thing, man, I get it. Or if you explore another linebacker during the June cuts or training camp cuts, I think you need somebody else. I think you need another veteran because the last thing you want is, God forbid, C.J. Mosley goes down. And then what? Who's playing? Like, you don't want to be stuck. Like, you need depth, like legitimate, I think, NFL depth, not the unknown depth of just say, oh, we'll throw in, whoever. No, let's get a guy that's been there, done that before. Blake Hashman was never going to be the guy because he never going to stay healthy. Like, but I would get somebody else. And who was the other guy last year? The guy who got from the Lions that went back to the Lions.
Jared Davis.
Yeah, another guy didn't work out. So but I would prefer to have somebody else in the mix, if maybe even 2 guys, to kind of stir it up, add competition, and add depth.
Yeah, and as we kind of move back to the next position group, the safeties, that's another area that I kind of felt like they may have missed their mark a little bit. I like the addition of Whitehead. I love them bringing back LaMarcus Joyner. I was really high on that signing last year. Unfortunately, he had the injury. And we haven't really seen any productive safety play from him in like 3 years because he was playing nickel with the Raiders the 2 years prior. But having him back there kind of being the quarterback of that secondary for such a young group, I think was a really smart move for him. I like I like Whitehead a lot. I do like Ashton Davis. I'm not, high on him as a starter at this point, but I like I like the athlete that is Ashton Davis, and I'm hoping he's not what we've kind of just come to know him to be. But aside from that, I don't know what to expect out of this safety core. I'm a little perplexed at it. How are you feeling?
I love the Whitehead signing. Absolutely loved it. One of the guys I wanted. I love what he brings to the table in terms of leadership, tenacity, intensity. I think the Jets sometimes last year lacked that little pop and that passion. You're going to get a lot of that from him, which I think is phenomenal. Bringing back Joyner, I think, is valuable too because what he can do is they're both going to be veteran leaders for all these young guys. Like Bryce Hall and Eccles, these guys are all still young, man. They're still learning on the fly. And you add Sauce Gardner. Now, obviously, you have DJ Reed back there too, but like having 2 safeties behind all these corners and helping them is great. But again, I'm with you where you almost want another piece. I know they're hiring Pinnock, who, that's an Elijah Riley, who I think is better than Ashton Davis at this point. But I was hoping to add another piece there. They may still do that. But I think Whitehead's a big improvement in what they had. And that's no disrespect to Marcus May by no means. I just think it's a different type of player,
Yeah, for sure. And you brought up the corners. And Sauce Gardner, really young. Bryce Hall, really young. Eccles, Carter, really young. DJ Reed, I think he's only like 25 years old, so still like really young. You're still getting a
Yep.
lot of, veteran leadership from your safety position for those corners. And I think part of the loss of Joyner last year, the loss of May, was the communication and how to get guys lined up in the defense. And I think year two, you have your depth pieces understanding the scheme, and then I think you have your new additions. Is there a position group? Definitely not on defense. I don't think that we could say is. Oh, I shouldn't even say that because the defense. We're just deep across the board. I really like this, but
Yeah.
the cornerback room, all the starters we had last year, I would have been fine with picking up one corner or something like that. But this room is totally revamped with the additions of Sauce and DJ Reed. How are you feeling about the cornerback room?
I'm with you. I like the young corners. I love Michael Carter. It's in the slot, and I'm an Eccles fan. I like Eccles because they're learning. Like, they learned on the fly with no pass rush in front of them. Like, they were being left on islands out there, and they were facing the team's best receivers in their rookie year, trying to figure it out. And they scratched, they clawed, they made mistakes, which they're supposed to. That's what you do. And then you're telling, like, you know what? If you get DJ Reed, I was fine. Like, all right, we're good. Like, we can figure it out, because if you're adding all these pass rushers, that hides your secondary anyway. Like, there's not as much of a premium to have all these great corners, but the depth is phenomenal. They're all young, they're all experienced. And the funny thing is, like, they get Sauce Gardner and like, oh, we could trade Bryce Hall now. I'm like, why? Like, we freaking have depth for the first time in forever. Like, now somebody goes down, guess what? We have depth. Like, a legitimate starter comes in. Like, when was the last time you could say that about a Jets team where, like, a guy can go down, or even two, like, you know what, next man up, and the next man up is actually talented.
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have to go back to the Revis Cromartie days, and I don't even know if we had that much depth. We were kind of like top heavy at that point.
Yep.
So it's going to be fascinating
It's
to see.
overall.
It's an exciting defense. This is like, I kind of gave Ulbrich a break last year because he was trying to run a defense with just no horses in the stable. This is a completely different story. We're going to be able to see just how good these players can be and just how good this defensive scheme can be. I don't want to see John Franklin Myers guarding Kyle Pitts in London. Like, get rid of that. Let's see some actual football. Let's bully some teams around. Now,
Yeah, I mean, but I think just one more thing, though. It's like,
yeah.
we expect the big step up from Zach Wilson in the offense. If you're going to see a significant improvement, it better be the defense. I mean, they were even competitive last year. Like, they weren't even stopping the run, the pass. They weren't even stopping themselves. Like, the guy would go through the line of scrimmage, there'd be three guys looking at him, pointing, and he's, 40 yards. That's got to change, man.
Between the screen passes and those short slants, it just killed us all year. And I'm hoping that maybe there was something going on with the linebackers trying to compensate for the secondary and the pass rush at the same time. Now maybe if they could focus a little more on their duties, maybe we see a better turnout there. But dude, that defense last year, I don't want to see the blowouts like we saw last year. I don't want to go into Denver and get smoked by Teddy Bridgewater. I don't want to go into Indianapolis and lose in prime time. Like, that's not what I'm looking to do. I think this defense is way too good for what we got out of them last year.
No, I completely agree, dude. And sometimes last year, like say like the Falcons game, you only had to cover two people, and we couldn't even cover those two people. Like they're like, and I understand it's the first year of a scheme. You got to figure out, you got to weed out the guys that don't fit your system and all the cliches and all the football analogies you want to use. Fine, we bought into that, but now you have studs everywhere. Maximize the talent, have a much better defense this year. You have to.
Now, let's move over to the offensive side of the ball. I want to talk about the offensive line, the fatties up front. We have Mekhi Becton coming back from injury. George Fant filled in perfectly for him at left tackle. Who's going to play either tackle position? I like the open competition. You got Elijah Vera Tucker moving from left guard to right guard. You have Laken Tomlinson, former first-round pick, all-pro last year, coming in on the left-hand side. And then you got McGovern at center. How are you feeling about this offensive line right now?
I love it, man. I think Becton's the X factor, but if I'm betting right now, I'm betting Becton's playing on the right side, not the left. That's kind of how I think he's slotted. And I love the nastiness and the physicality Tomlinson's going to bring to this. I think Vera Tucker has that same little edge to him too. I think far too many times last year, Jets offensive line was pushed around and there was no resistance. There was no fight. They're kind of like they had no identity, man. They're kind of just figuring it out. I think Tomlinson is going to bring, like, you know what? We're going to start smacking people around here. You hit our quarterback, we're going to do some things now. Vera Tucker's the same way. You could have two Pro Bowl guards, which is a significant upgrade. That establishes your running game. I like Fant. I'm curious to see how they play that out. Like, I think he plays left. If Becton's healthy, plays right. I mean, you can run the ball to the right side. Look at what you can do behind Vera Tucker and Becton going to the right. I mean, the opportunities are endless. And it's just, the only thing is, like, how do you feel about their depth, though? Like, Do they have anything behind it? Like Max Mitchell's a project. The other guys behind him are kind of like, all right, like they may want to tinker a little bit there. Like last year, they got Morgan Moses late, which helped out a lot. But I wouldn't mind another move like that to kind of get some insurance in here.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you. I think an additional tackle is just imperative for how we've seen this offensive line kind of unfold the last 2 years, maybe. I do like that Vera Tucker played left tackle at USC, so maybe that provides some type of versatility, but I don't really want to move him like out of the guard position. Ideally, after June, around training camp, maybe we can snag someone that's fallen off another roster because I don't love the depth there. I would say I don't mind the guard depth. I do like the Herbig signing a lot. That was someone that Douglas had scouted prior to, he was VP of player personnel for the Eagles, scouted him, and then came over to the Jets. So I think there's a little bit of inside knowledge there. A lot of Eagles fans that I've talked to really like him. Yeah. Center-wise, it felt like they were trying to move on from McGovern. Like everything that I sort of saw, Ryan Jensen they were flirting with. You heard a little bit about Bradley Bozeman from the Ravens. They had interviewed Linderbaum. They were trying Zion Johnson at center at the Senior Bowl. So that piece to me, you sort of I shouldn't say harped on, but you sort of mentioned it before with the nasty, if someone hits our quarterback, Laken Tomlinson's going to stand up for him. I sort of got the vibe from McGovern last year where he just, there was one hit on Zach during the Patriot game where he kind of walked away from him. And dude, it rubbed me the wrong friggin' way. Like, not okay. You got to knock someone's teeth out if they hit your quarterback like that.
Yep. And that was my biggest pet peeve last year. I'm like, do they not like the kid or they just don't care? Like, what are we doing? Like, and that was like what's solid. I'm like, you're this passionate, fiery coach. Your quarterback's getting his ass beat, like literally getting teed off on, and you're sitting there watching him. Like, pick him up, smack, like, fight for your quarterback and change the attitude. And that's the culture change. And that's why I think when you add guys like Whitehead and Tomlinson, these guys are like, they have another little edge to them, man. They give a little more fire to the locker room that you need, and it's needed, man. I mean, that's a big change. And I'm not the biggest McGovern fan. I'm just not. I was ready to move on him this year, but I mean, I think also having two very good guards next to him will raise the level of him too. Maybe he's not going to worry so much about accounting for what's next to him. Maybe that's the case. I mean, because Van Roten was god awful, so maybe that helps him a little bit too. But I kind of wish that you'd get a young center on the roster to kind of groom for when he leaves. So it's like you kind of like almost like a Max Mitchell, but like a center that you kind of develop and say, okay, here's your replacement. You learn the offense, you learn the scheme, and you can kind of fill right in. And that's kind of missing, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I was hoping one of those late round picks would have been used on a center. I was looking at like Donovan West. I was looking at Alec Lindstrom, like those guys that you might have seen like a developmental year from. I'm fine with rolling with McGovern for another year. But, like, now you don't have an option after him. Like, what are you going to do? Put in Feeney? Like, that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, moving to the tight end group. This is probably the biggest makeover of all the positions. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. We don't have Croft. We don't have Griffin. You're not starting Wesco. You got Uzama. You got Conklin. You got Jeremy Ruckert. Talk to me. How are you feeling about this tight end room?
That was my biggest complaint last year, where it was like the tight end is a quarterback's best friend, and you're bringing in a Bills guy that can never stay healthy. I didn't like Ryan Griffin, and Wesco is what he is. Like, it's like you need your safety valve. You need the guy. It's like when all in doubt, throw it to him for 6 yards, fall down, we get 2nd and 4, whatever it is. And then it's like I want a Conklin in the worst way. That's who I wanted, and they go to Zama, and I'm like, wow, I'm like that's crazy. I'm like, and then you're like, imagine if they got Conklin too. Like that'd be pretty wild, right? You like a fantasy football. Like, oh, I'll play Madden and we'll get Conklin too. They go out and get him, and I'm like, dude, like we haven't had tight end talent, and like what Dustin Keller, and he was okay, but now it's like we have not only one, like we could have probably been okay with Uzama and be like, wow, we're set up tight end now. Now you have 3 guys, right? If one goes down, you have the other. So now you have the running game will improve, the pass blocking will improve. You have a much more dynamic offense because you can do all kinds of different sets now. I mean, you can actually take advantage of mismatches on the defense now, which was the last time we could say that with a tight end position, So it's awesome, man. That would make me the happiest, I think, out of the entire offseason was like now it's like build around your quarterback. You have an offensive line that's improved, but now you have tight ends that could be a weapon, the wide receivers depth, and then the running backs. I'm like, bro, like this is an NFL offense. Like we've actually built around the freaking quarterback like we should have.
Yeah, and you just brought it up, the running back position. Now, you kind of saw what we wanted to do at the beginning of last season. They wanted to run heavy personnel. They wanted to run the ball. They wanted to play that ball control type of offense. Give Zach Wilson, like, some time, let him breathe, work off the play action. And now you add Breece Hall, you add or you have Michael Carter, you bring back Tevin Coleman. Now this running back room is really impressive. You're going to have a lot of those 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3 opportunities where now you can rip the ball over the top and defenses aren't going to know what's coming. You could hit them with every different look possible. So talk to me. How are you feeling about the running backs?
Oh, I'm excited, man. I'm a Michael Carter fan. Like I was quite happy with him. But now you have guys that can catch the ball in the backfield. They can run the ball. They fight for every yard. It's like it's a different. They're game-changing running backs now. And I think you're right. I think the Jets want to run the football. That's the best way to protect Zach Wilson. You'll get the time of possession, wear down the defense, and you open big plays down the field. Then you have Garrett Wilson, all these guys. But like it takes the pressure off Zach Wilson, man. Also, if you have cold weather games or rainy games or games late in the season where you know what, you got to run the ball. That's how you win the NFL most of the time. You know what I mean? You got to establish something. They can do it. I like the versatility. I like Tevin Coleman. I thought he had a lot of value. And especially with 2 young running backs, he's a tremendous asset to have back there. So you have a veteran leader. The guys behind them, I think P. Ryan's just a guy, and Austin Walter was a good story. But I think, again, another position where you feel comfortable. Like it's like you have depth and you have talent. And like legitimate, like game-breaking talent. Like for far too often, we would overvalue players that were just like, I don't say mediocre, but average guys. Oh, no, you don't understand, man. This guy's on the verge of a Pro Bowl. No, he's an average guy on a bad team, and we think he's much better than he is. Because when we cut them, they don't do anything anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So now it's like we have, it's a much improved room like the other. It's weird. Our conversation's the same, man. It's like an improved group, right?
Yeah, literally, we're going through every position group right now, and we're just gushing over the depth, over the improvement from year over year. It's fascinating to me what they're going to be doing with this running back room because, like you said, if someone goes down with an injury, Michael Carter shared touches in college. We saw him get a little bit banged up last year. Being able to have a runner like Breece Hall and the ability to be a bell cow, but not having to be one, is amazing. You get this guy fresher longer into the season. He's never played a 17-game season before. You get him fresher longer into games, and now you legitimately have a threat to score a touchdown on every single rush because these guys are healthy and fresh coming into the game.
No, it's so invaluable, man. It's like they're dynamic. It's like you can do so many different sets now with the talent you have back there. You know what I mean? You can both in the backfield at the same time if you want. You can get creative as you want. And now it's like Mike LaFleur is like a magician. He's like a mad scientist back there. Like you don't know what he's doing. Like you can keep the defense off balance now. You know what I mean? You don't know what to cover, who to cover, when to cover them. You could challenge the linebackers. You can challenge the safeties, and or you just maul them. Ground the pound, and do whatever you want. And it's nice, man. It's a refreshing change.
It's just great to see. We saw how Robert Saleh was talking about how to help Zach Wilson the most. And he brought up the pass rush. And you kind of saw it sort of unfold. You get the pass rush. Now you're going to cause some errant throws. You're going to get to take advantage of some of those errant throws by intercepting the ball with Sauce or with Reed or with Whitehead or with Joyner. Now all of a sudden you create more opportunities with the ball. And now if you're playing ball control offense, you're taking the ball out of the offense of the other team's hands. All of a sudden, you have control of the game. It's absolutely amazing what they've done. And now I want to go over to the wide receiver side of this and really talk about that because that was a position group last year I was feeling pretty good about. We got a little banged up towards the end of the year, but adding Garrett Wilson to this mix and getting back a healthy Corey Davis and Braxton Berrios comes back and Elijah Moore year 2, this is going to be an exciting group here.
See, the thing is, there's 2 things. I think Elijah Moore is like everybody's worried about number 1 receiver. I think the kid's a star to making. I think that is the guy that if you want to worry about, everybody's like, we need this game-breaking star. He's the guy. Like wasn't healthy last year. He started off rough, had the bad drop against the Panthers. It was just all rough for everybody. They started figuring out, and you started to see a lot of really good things from him. And the good thing about having Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, and Braxton Berrios is that there's no pressure on Garrett Wilson. There's not. Like you're not bringing Garrett Wilson to an empty room saying, okay, bro, 80 catches, 1,000 yards, and 12 touchdowns, or you're a bust. No, you can kind of phase him in, give him his plays, work the plays that he likes, or you could feature him, but there's no pressure there. And then the same word we've mentioned all night so far is depth. Like if say Corey Davis gets banged up again, okay, we got 3 or 4 guys because in this NFL you need 5 or 6 receivers. You have to have that because that's every NFL offense is doing it. Look at the Bengals, the Chiefs. Like you got to be able to spread the defense out. And you can use your tight ends to do that too. But the Jets have like a good group of players. This is going to sound kind of crazy, but I wouldn't mind adding another veteran receiver to the group. I wouldn't mind adding another piece, man. Like no disrespect to Jeff Smith and Vincent Smith and all these other guys, whoever else at the end, but like I would like another guy, just to really kind of put the final piece to the touches here. Because I think Keelan Cole signed tonight. Didn't he go to the Raiders?
Oh, I didn't see that. I was kind of
Yeah.
hoping he would come back. I really
That's
like Keelan
but
Cole.
that's the kind of guy I would have liked to bring back. Like, you know what?
Hmm.
You're our 5 or 6, kind of be another veteran voice in the room. But
Hmm.
that's kind of player I wanted to bring back.
Yeah, the way I looked at Cole last year was he was kind of one of those glue guys. That's kind of like how I look at Feeney too. Like he's a locker room guy. He gets people, excited to be at practice. He's having fun. He's screwing around. Like I think he was the one with the helicopter taking off in the background, and he's making the comment, "Oh, unless that's the owner." Like
Yeah.
that's the type of guy that you like having in the locker room. But like you said, the wide receiver depth is incredible, and you mentioned the tight ends too. Because if we're going these heavy sets and we're using the running backs, like there's a lot of situations we're probably going to have 2 wide receivers on the field. We're going to have the 2 tight ends, and we're going to have the running back. So like we're going to be able to keep our wide receivers fresher longer too. And hopefully healthier longer into the season. And I'm with you. I think Elijah Moore can absolutely be that number 1. You watch some of the plays he had last year and just how the defense had to react even when the ball wasn't going towards him. You saw safety shift over that to his direction. Like this guy's an impact player.
Yeah, I mean, I think people don't realize how good he was. Everybody wants the next big thing. I'm like, you already have it. Like, I think the problem is you see other rookie receivers take off and you want the same thing from your own guy. And it's like, listen, it may take 2 years, but you can see the legitimate talent that he has. Like, it takes a little bit longer. That's fine. No big deal. Like, we have depth, we have talent, we have a lot of flexibility now. You have the big guy, you have the speed guy, you have the slot guy. You could do a lot of really good things. And Berrios is kind of underrated, man, because I mean, I didn't want to give him like $10 million a year to come back. He came back at a really good deal, but we were down to nobody last year at the end. And he was scratching and clawing, fighting for every yard, fighting for every catch. He became a really good, reliable target for Zach Wilson. So that's a good piece to have too.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if he wound up finding a home as our like main slot receiver. I think it would be really cool to see because you saw how much he fought for this team when there was nothing on the line. I mean, yeah, he was going into a contract year, so I guess you could kind of argue that. But he took less money to stay with the Jets. And to me, I can't remember the last time a player took less money to come here. Like that to me was the paradigm shift of, okay, we are not the same old Jets and this locker room is changing because guys like being together. I loved seeing Zach Wilson in the Braxton Berrios is good and Braxton in the Zach Wilson is good t-shirts. Like that's really cool to see. And you see the guys palling around with like Elijah Moore and Michael Carter. Like this is a close-knit team and it's fun to watch. These guys are having fun at work.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is they grow together. They become that young nucleus that sticks together, grows together, and it's all possible, man. You have Wilson, you have Elijah Moore, you have Michael Carter, you have Breece Hall. Dude, they're all the same age. They can pal out, hang out, and as a unit, they advance together. They all grow together. That's how you rebuild. And then year 2, year 3, there's no questions. They're all on the same page. The offense is just running, flying high. It's like it's a true rebuild, man, and it's fun to watch.
So let's talk about the all-important question. The big question mark on the team, Zach Wilson. What are you expecting out of him year 2?
Big step ahead, man. Like he had a very rocky first year. I think we're all blessed for our sanity that he finished the season strong, reduced his turnovers. If he had a rocky end of the season, this offseason would have been a nightmare. So he cleaned things up. He figured things out. I think we're all encouraged by his work ethic, his leadership, how he's kind of taking on a bigger role. He's figuring things out, man. Like it's tough because you're coming to an organization that's starved for a franchise quarterback, a fan base that we've seen so many failures that the first sign of weakness, we think you're a bust. Like he's coming to a really tough spot and he started off bad, which made this all freak out, but he started figuring things out. And that's like, all right, he has so much talent. He has so much ability. And I think that now he's in a really good spot where he doesn't have to be a hero. Like you have enough talent where just stay in the offense, get rid of the football. Give them to your playmakers. Yards after the catch will be your best friend. The running game will be your best friend. And then year 2, like I'm not saying he's got to be a top 15 quarterback. Dude, be top 20, top 22. But just, increase, just be a lot more consistent, a lot more productive, manage the game, stay within yourself. And then year 3 could be the one where like, you know what? Now we know we have our franchise quarterback. So it's like year 1 was kind of like not a redshirt year, but kind of like, all right, rough start, but we understand why. We've seen glimpses. Year 2, a lot more glimpses. Year 3, it's like ready for takeoff. Like you've really got to, take the next step. But I think I haven't seen anything yet where you doubt it. Like I don't know why people like it's a weird fan base because some people hate him and I don't know why. Like I don't understand what the reason is. Mm-hmm. And then the other part is like, no, he's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Like let Zach Wilson be Zach Wilson. But I think this year he's going to take a big step forward enough to be like, you know what, this is going to be a very competitive team throughout the entire season.
Yeah, you look at what Joe Douglas said to him when we drafted him. It was, hey, we're not going to put this all on you. And last year, it was all on him. Everyone got injured. He had to try and make plays, and you saw him play hero ball. We were at that home opener where he, threw the interceptions. It was just sucked the wind right out of the stadium. So now this year, you kind of go into it. You have all the weapons. You can kind of sit back and understand. I want to see him react more than think about each play. Like, I think he'll have a better understanding of it. And you see him come into camp. The guy's looking like he's been working out. I don't know what kind of workout regimen he's on. I want to get on that. This guy's looking legit.
You're kidding.
Dude, it's really exciting to see where this is all going to go. And I think when I'm looking at this AFC in particular, and you see the quarterbacks that are there, you see Watson come over, you see well, I guess he was in the AFC, but you see him go to the Browns. You see Wilson go over to the Broncos. You have Mahomes. You have Herbert. You have Jackson. You have Allen. You have Burrow. Like a lot of really good quarterbacks. And when I'm looking at the rest of the East outside of Allen, Mac Jones, Tua, Zach Wilson. Zach, to me, is clearly the talent that you want to have to try and compete in the AFC. Like, I'm not afraid of Mac Jones. I'm not afraid of Tua. Like, we got to take care of business, and I have confidence in this team if we do that. I really like where Zach Wilson's upside could be going.
And that was the thing about drafting him. It's like, you know what? You've got to have a high-flying offense. You have to have like an elite-level playmaker quarterback, the guy that can make all the throws and create plays and just do things you've never seen before, because that's – look who you're going against. Like, Joe, you mentioned all the guys. Look at the talent. Like I like Mac Jones. I think he's good for what he does, but I think he may have already reached his ceiling, man. Like, you know what his limits are. And even Tua, you kind of know what his limits are already, too, after a couple of years. And this year's probably a make or break year for him. If he doesn't do too well, they may get rid of him. So to me, Zach Wilson, I think that level, that potential that he brings to the table is exciting and enticing. If he hits that level, then you have that top tier quarterback that you need to compete in the AFC. That's what you need, because Josh Allen's in your division. Like that's what you got to go toe to toe. It's one of the best quarterbacks in football in your own conference and your own division. So if you can't man up and get there, you're going to be behind the eight ball. So I'm with you, man. I think it's right now. It's like, you know what the other two quarterbacks are. I'd take Zach Wilson out based on potential and how they're surrounding him, and take my chances. And 3 years from now, we could either be heroes or we could be bozos. But I'll take my chances right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a gambling man. Let's jump over to not a position group, but I want to talk about the coaching staff. How are you feeling about Douglas? How are you feeling about Saleh, LaFleur, Oldwork going into year two?
I think they learned a lot last year. There was a lot of very ugly moments where you didn't know what they're doing. It was just too much newness, man. You have new coach, new coordinator, rookie quarterback. LaFleur's he's on the field, then he's in the booth. Then you had the unfortunate passing of Greg Knapp. I mean, there were so many things that happened that they had like trial by fire. They go out and hire John Beck. But I think towards the end of the season, they all found themselves. They found their identity. I think Mike LaFleur proved that he can call plays. He knows how to game manage. He knows how to do a lot of good things, especially when he had no talent out there. They were dropping like flies, and he was figuring out ways how to maximize Berrios and how to find ways for Zach Wilson to manage it. So I like LaFleur. I think Saleh improved as the season went along, especially in terms of holding players accountable. I mean, it took way too long to bench Greg Van Roten. It drove me insane. And you see things like if a player gets back-to-back personal fouls, like to me, if Nathan Shepard gets a personal foul, it pisses you off, he comes out of the game. Like, don't leave players in. Like, to me, like I'm like the old school. I'm old, but the whole Bill Parcells thing. Like, dude, there's got to be punishment for doing really stupid things. Like, if Denzel Mims make a stupid mistake, you come out of the game. You don't stay in the game. Like, you got to earn your right to be on the field. And Saleh towards the end started doing that. So I like that. Defensively, I was disappointed last year. I don't know. I know it's Saleh's defense. I know all different excuses, but they got to show us a lot more, because when they were questioning them, they said, "Well, it's not the scheme." Okay, well, the Jets' defensive front last year wasn't terrible. They had enough to at least stop the running game, and they couldn't do that. And there was games like, dude, I'm a fan that drinks beer and watches games. I know what the opponent's game plan is. Like the Falcons game. It was stop Patterson and stop Pitts. It's not rocket science. Like, it's just, this is basic stuff. And we look dazed and confused. Like we were shocked by things. Like, how is that possible? So the argument is too many young players and too much of this. And okay, fine. This year, Ulbrich and even Saleh got to prove a lot to us in terms of defense, in terms of, getting off the field on third down, starting off the games a lot faster, not getting mauled for the whole first quarter and then making adjustments, and then closing out games too, figuring out a way to close things out, which has been a problem for Jets defenses going back to Rex Ryan. Like, we can never close out games for some reason. So I'm not like fire anybody on defense, but I think the expectation should be a lot more from them this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And you touched on the whole Mike LaFleur thing and him calling the offense. I think something that we got to see as a benefit to make us feel a little bit better about him. You got to see him with Flacco. You got to see him with Mike White. You got to see him with Josh Johnson. You got to see him with what was it, Pickett at the Senior Bowl, and like he played well. Like literally every quarterback under this guy is playing well. So I believe we have the right guys in place to make Zach Wilson be successful, and I think we have the right guys.
Yeah, and I think so too. I'm real curious to see, like the whole quarterback coach thing. It's like they made weird decisions because of so many young coordinators and young coaches. It was like, like first time coordinator, first time quarterback coach, first time quality assistant. I'm like, God, like you wish you had, and that's where the whole Greg Knapp thing came in. But and then you bring John Beck in. But it's like you hope that that's not going to be an issue this year, where they cleaned all that up, where Zach feels comfortable. He doesn't have to rely on making phone calls to his coach. It's all cleaned up now. They're all on the same page.
So I want to hear it from you. What are you hoping for record-wise?
No less than 7 wins, man. There's no reason why they've got to win at least 7 games. I think every Jets fan saying the same thing, like meaningful games in October, November, December, competitive week in and week out. There's too much talent. We just spent half hour, 40 minutes talking about this roster that's significantly improved. And then a lot of these young players, it's year 2. Wilson, Elijah Moore, year 2 for the coaching staff, LaFleur. There's just too much talent, man. And can I go on a rant? Because I don't want to hear about the schedule. I don't care about who we're playing. Let's stop like, oh, we can't beat this team. We can't do that. We always lose to this team. How about this? How about we can start winning these games? How about start like division games? Beat the Dolphins. Beat the Patriots. Like these only don't assume losses. So 7 wins. The Jets always get bad breaks, especially with injuries. If they can get some good breaks this year, get the right bounce, get the right penalty called for them for a change, maybe they get 8-9 wins. Like they can maybe in December, like, hey, you know what? When they have that little wild card hunt, we're on that page for once for the first time in 5 years, right? But that should be the expectation. Like, why not?
Dude, I'm right there with you. When I said in December, I just want to see in the hunt. I don't care if we make the playoffs, but I just want to know there's an outside shot. If a team loses and the Jets do something the right way, you get that right bounce, maybe we could back into the playoffs or you can surprise some people. I think the Jets are going to be in a way better spot going into next offseason, and you're going to see a lot of hype around the Jets, especially if we can get to that 7-win target, like you said.
Yeah, it's funny because now you're seeing the articles, are the Jets the trendy pick for this year and all this stuff? And I'm like, all right, let's not get crazy. Like, I'm not talking playoffs. I'm not talking win the division. I'm talking, but we should expect more from fans. Like, the thing that bothered me last year the most was the tone around this team where we all accepted a bad season. We all, we know we're going to suck. We know we're going to struggle. And everybody was cool with it. But some of the losses we endured were unacceptable. But that was, like, all right, bad game. 2 bad games. But now it's like this year, no more 51-10 blowouts, whatever these things are. No more being out of the game at halftime. Like, you're going to have your one clunker every year. Every team has it. But don't give us 3 of them. Like, you know what I mean? And like in December, let's not be talking mock drafts in December. Let's talk about like the Jets having a chance to, be like, in the hunt, till whatever. So it's different expectations, man.
Tyson, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Let everyone know where they can find you and what you got going on.
Well, Let's Talk Jets Radio. First of all, thank you for having me. You guys are far more professional, organized than we are. We don't have any of these graphics, nothing like that. We're live usually Monday and Tuesday nights. We do a lot of personal videos, and we stream a lot of games. We do tailgate stuff. We just have a lot of fun, man. We're just kind of like casual fans talking football. So it's Let's Talk Jets Radio on YouTube, at Talk Jets Radio, Instagram and Twitter. And just, if you guys want to stop by and chat with us, our chat is legendary, dude. We have like our community is like, we have like fans from all over the world, like Russia, England, Ireland, Japan, Sweden, and it's like the chat it's just a funny group, man. And especially during the down times when we suck pretty bad, it kept us all interested. It kept us all having fun. So we have a good time.
Guys, if you have not subscribed to Let's Talk Jets Radio, link is going to be in the description. Highly recommend it. The game streams, like Tyson is saying, really fun to watch. Tyson, thank you so much for coming on. Boys and girls, let me know what you thought of everything in this video and Tyson's breakdown. And as always, go Jets.